So this is the XPG Xenia 15. This is a laptop created in collaboration with Intel. If you haven't heard of XPG, they're a gaming brand from ADATA, which makes like a lot of SSDs you might have used. And the cool thing about this device is not only was it made in collaboration with Intel, it was done very well. Like, I honestly think Intel needs to collaborate more with a lot of these vendors, not just in the back end in terms of what like CPU performance should be like, but the overall spec sheet, the overall feel and function of the laptop, because I walked away from this device feeling very satisfied compared to the more expensive options out there. Now, this is a Tongfeng chassis, so it's not like custom made or anything, and the overall design is very clean. It's using a magnesium alloy, so you have a bit more lid flex than you would on something like a Razer Blade 15, but the overall device feels fairly premium. It's around 4 pounds, so it's light enough to carry with you considering how much performance they packed inside of here, but there's just a lot of ports. Like, they crammed this thing with one USB port and a headphone jack on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, they have 2 more USB ports, an SD card slot, and then on the back, which is great to keep your table clean and tidy of cables, you have your power connector, RJ45, HDMI, and then you have a Thunderbolt 4 port. You cannot charge the laptop using USB Type-C, unfortunately. Now, opening up is very easy. You can do it with one hand. There's a bit of screen wobble. It doesn't have the same sort of stiff hinge as the Razer Blade 15, but not as crazy as the HP Omen 15 or Gigabyte Aero 15. Now, this is an all black deck. I just love the look of this. It just looks so stealthy. And the difference between most other gaming laptops is that this keyboard is mechanical. Now, they say it's quiet. It's not super loud, but you definitely can hear it more so than you would on a regular keyboard. Now, these optical mechanical switches feel great to game on. Like, I love gaming on these things. I'd rather game on this than, let's say, an MSI GE76 or even a Razer Blade 15 when it comes to gaming, because the travel distance, the response time, everything just feels super premium. Now, you do have RGB below it, and the unique thing about this is that it's not being controlled by software from XPG. Intel has their own software that they use that kind of controls the different performance profiles. There's no numpad, so some of you out there might be disappointed in that, but you do get a dedicated button that lets you switch between different performance modes. If you leave it off like I have right now, it puts it on battery saver. You press it once, it automatically kicks into balance mode. You press it again, and then you see both of these white lights lit up, and then all of a sudden you're in performance mode. The unfortunate part is it doesn't tell you on the screen. Like, when I push this, nothing shows up on the screen. You just have to like look at the lights and remember which profile is which. The other thing I like is this touchpad. It's not a massive touchpad, but wow, it feels super accurate. It feels great to use. Again, I'm going to compare it to the Razer Blade 15 just because this is an all black laptop. It's a lot more accurate, and clicking on this, there's a little bit more, I don't know, response, whereas on the Razer Blade, there's less depth, so it feels like you have to push a bit harder. Now, this little white dot you see here, if you tap it twice, it automatically disables the touchpad. You can see it's now on. If I double tap it again, it brings the touchpad back on so that you can use it with your fingers. This is great because if you're like gaming with a mouse and then you have your hand over here, you don't want your touchpad to interfere with the game you're playing. Now, this is a 2560 by 1440 display. It's QHD, it's 165 Hertz, it's matte, so you don't get that crazy reflection you would on a glass panel. It's a great display. Like, I've been enjoying my time gaming on this. It doesn't get crazy bright, like 344 nits of brightness, so slightly below the 350 nit range, which I consider average, but the color saturation is fantastic. It's more than adequate to do design work on it. I didn't feel like I was being robbed of any sort of color profiles, but overall a great display. I do have Windows 10 installed on this. The way I'm going forward with reviewing laptops is I'm gonna review it based on the operating system that they sent me the laptop with. The laptop does support Windows Hello, it just doesn't have a fingerprint scanner. If you want to use it, you have to do it through the facial recognition camera on the top. It logs you in fairly quickly, but the webcam quality is 720p and it just doesn't look that great. Speakers are on the bottom of the laptop. They're okay. You know, they get fairly loud. They're not going to blow you away, but they're more than adequate for regular gaming. As long as the fans don't get too loud, then you're probably going to want to put on headphones. Now, performance on this guy is what really impressed me. Like, this is a collaboration with Intel, and this retails for about $2,500, and that nets you an i7 1100H with an RTX 3070. It runs at 125 watts, but I've seen it boost up to 145. You get a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, and you have this 15-inch QHD 165 hertz display. Honestly, the performance is fantastic on this laptop. It's obviously not the fastest RTX 3070 I've tested in a laptop, but you're getting better performance than a 3070 that you'd get inside of a Razer Blade 15, just because this GPU can boost up higher. I mean, look, for the price, it's giving you like a good balance of cooling and performance together. Even if you're buying this for like content creation or developing code, you're gonna find the results to be really good on this. It wasn't the fastest 11800H, but it definitely wasn't the slowest. Like, it did a very good job. Now, I wanna mention there is a benchmark mode on this. All my tests were done in performance mode. Benchmark mode just like blasts the fans, and I truly didn't see that much of a difference in terms of performance. Now, when it comes to heat management, I like the balance that Intel and XPG are doing here. You know, CPU temps never really get over 90 degrees, like never. And it starts at around 65 watts, the CPU. And then I only saw it drop down to like 55 or 58 watts when it was under full load. Like, it sustained a very good clock speed while keeping the laptop under 90 degrees Celsius. Now, the chassis does get a bit warm, but nothing really overheats. Like, even if you're touching the keyboard, my fingers never got hot when I was gaming. You can feel the hot air coming out of the sides. There's just a lot of vents on this laptop to let the air come in and pass out, which is fantastic for a gaming laptop. Now, fan noise is what you'd expect from a gaming laptop. Like, you have this thing under load, you're playing games, it's obviously going to be well over 50 decibels, but it does have quiet profile. So if you want more of an enjoyable experience, you can tune that down and get it under 40. At this point, if you're enjoying the video, feel free to like and subscribe, as that will help out the channel a lot. But the internals are looking good. You know, we have a big 93 watt hour battery, which doesn't get the best battery life, unfortunately. I only got about 4 hours and 15 minutes of use before needing to charge, but you do have the options to upgrade a lot of stuff. Wi-Fi card is swappable. You have a PCIe Gen 4 SSD, and it gets really good read and write speeds. And if you want a second drive, there's an empty slot right below it. You have 2 slots for RAM, which are obviously upgradable to 64. This one happens to be rank 8. And then of course you have the cooling solution, which you have 2 fans on the left and right hand side with a bunch of copper running through the middle. Now, if you want to change stuff like the performance and RGB and window shortcuts, XPG doesn't have their own software on here. You got to use Intel's NUC software, which is pre-installed. It does the job. It works great. It's just something you have to remember. The other thing is the design. Like, this is a very simple and clean looking laptop. I like it, but man, this thing gets dirty. And this is something I don't complain about too much, but out of all the black laptops I've used, this one picks up fingerprints like crazy. It reminds me of the early Razer Blade laptops that didn't have that anti-fingerprint coating. The other cool thing though is the RGB. There's a little bit on the bottom lip of the laptop. It's not overbearing and it's just the right amount. I think it's a great touch. Now, should you buy this? Honestly, I think for $2,500, when you compare it to, let's say, a comparable Razer Blade 15 advanced model, you're saving like $400 to $500. Sure, you're not getting the better speakers, the better build quality, and a few other things, but I think for value and bang for buck, this is giving you everything you need. The only thing I don't know about this laptop is how is the warranty and the after service support going to be, because I've never experienced ADATA's or XPG's support, so I'm not too familiar with it. So that's the only thing you have to think about. But for price for dollar, I think this thing does the job, and I need Intel to make more laptops, or at least more collaborations like this. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.